What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today we're talking captaincy for game week 10. Now, last week there was quite a few options, but I felt like there was one standout. A lot of the options people were going for, Ziyech, Grealish, right? I think they were just, it's time to do something a bit different. This week, I still think there's a standout, but the other options are much closer, and I genuinely think there are a lot of options this week, and we're going to see some potentially big swings. There's a lot of games to go through. I'm going to jump into it in just a second. Please do hit that like button if you're enjoying the captaincy series this year, and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on our way to 125k. It's not too far away if you keep hitting that button. So just before we jump into the first game, I want to talk about Fanteam. So Fanteam are kindly once again sponsoring today's video. Big shout out to them. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. If you do want to check it out and you want to get involved with the Game Week 10 weekly monster event, 100,000 euro prize pool up for grabs, 10,000 euro for first place. There is a link in the description below. Just click that and you can get signed up and give it a go. It's 20 euro entry, and all you have to do is essentially pick a free hit team. So as FPL managers watching this, you know what the free hit's all about. You pick a team for 1 week and 1 week only, and that's it, and you try and get the most amount of points. We already know who the best players are for this week. It's looking like Salah, Mane, Jota, Vardy, those kind of players that we're all going to be talking about in this captaincy video. Basically, any player that I mention in here is a good pick for this week, I would say. So you just got to go and build your team and then try and win as much money as possible. It is 18 plus, it is gambling, so you should be gambleaware.org. There's links to that in the description below. But if you want to sign up, like I said, top of the description, hit that link, get signed up, give it a go, and let me know how you get on. So Brighton versus Liverpool is an interesting game for many reasons. Now, Liverpool players should be really high up in our thoughts in terms of captaincy this week. What's going to happen is a lot of people sold Salah last week, and maybe they don't want to get him back now. Maybe they're waiting until game week 12, that Fulham game. So what you're going to start to hear is lots of reasons why this is not a good game for Liverpool. This is absolutely a brilliant game for Liverpool. I don't necessarily think they're the standout pick, but I do think it's very close. Now, Champions League yesterday was interesting. I said in the game week preview, I was hoping for Salah to get 60 minutes and then come off, and that's pretty much what happened. He got 61 minutes. He played. Did he look great? No. Did Liverpool look great? No. They lost the game, right? There was a lot of players in there that are not in there anywhere near their first choice 11, let alone their best 11 with current injuries, right? Origi played up front. Diogo Jota and Firmino both got rested. So it was very much kind of a B team squad for Liverpool. So Salah getting some minutes under his belt was good. Jota, Firmino getting rested was good. Whether or not Mane now gets a rest in the Premier League, I don't know. Perhaps that will happen. But if they're at full strength, they could blow Brighton away. And I think people just forget how good Liverpool are sometimes. Like, yes, I've mentioned before, Brighton's defence this year has been quite good. Now, between game weeks 5 and 8, they only conceded 12 shots in the box. The kind of opposition they faced wasn't that great, but that's still impressive. Against Aston Villa, though, they conceded 8. So they had 12 in 4 game weeks and then 8 against Villa. Now, if Villa can do that, imagine what Liverpool can do, a team that just absolutely dismantled Leicester. So right now, I don't see an issue with Liverpool players, and I think any kind of disdain almost towards captain and Salah is because a lot of people got rid of him, right? And they're not looking at it objectively. Now, I am looking to get him back, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I said last week I would look to get him back because Jamie Vardy and him are probably my 2 favourite captaincy options for this week. So Brighton, yes, defensively have been quite sound this year, but Villa showed they can be got at, and if Villa can do it, Liverpool can definitely do it. And also, one of the things that happened against Villa was Lamptey won the ball back quite a lot, especially in the opposition half. He's not in that team, right? And I fully appreciate he's not on Salah's side, right? Someone pointed that out yesterday. It's Mane that's going to kind of be affected on that left side, not having to go up against Lamptey. But overall, what I'm saying is the balance for Brighton is not as good, and they're not going to be as strong without Lamptey. So I think they're going to find this one very difficult, right? Whether Liverpool are the top choices, I'm not necessarily saying that, but I do think they're very good. Now, realistically, Jota has to be up there as a captain option as well. He's just been rested. You'd feel like he'd rested or not played, whatever you want to call it. He was rested, I would say, and he's probably going to start against Brighton now, right? That's what most people would think. So he has to be up there as captain options. I mentioned yesterday about the goal threat, and over the last 4 game weeks, Jota had taken more shots in the box than Salah and Mane, although it was very, very close. And obviously, you're always, out of the two, going to back Salah or back Mane because they're more likely to start. Salah in particular, still more goal threat on general, and got penalties as well, right? So no one's writing Salah off. But if you've got Jota, I do think he's a genuine option this week. So I don't think there's much to pick between those three players. I do think this is a really good fixture, and like I said, although Brighton have been good defensively, I don't think that's going to change. Liverpool are just doing Liverpool things right now. They've got the best XG for the season. They got the best XG for the last 4 weeks. Yes, they got a few players injured, but they still have a great team and a great squad. Like, no one should be writing Liverpool off. Last year, Man City were right at the top of expected goals, even ahead of Liverpool. Even though Liverpool did really well, but Man City were just a step above in terms of the number of goals scored. But this year, like Liverpool, after 9 game weeks, all these injuries and stuff, they are still the best team in the league. And there is every chance they could blow Brighton away. So I think really, really good captaincy options. Brighton's not the best fixture this week for captaincy, but Liverpool options are right up there with the best. And I will certainly be looking towards someone like Salah for captaincy this week. So this is the fixture I think is the best this week, right? Leicester versus Fulham. More importantly, Jamie Vardy versus Fulham. Let's be honest, no one's considering the likes of Maddison or Barnes or Tielemans, whoever it might be, as captaincy options this week. So it's kind of Jamie Vardy or bust, because at the end of the day, I'm never going to talk about defenders in these videos. It's always going to be attackers for captaincy. And I really don't know what to make of Jamie Vardy this season, right? I've talked many, many times about penalties. Like, I've been playing FPL for 10 years. Penalty takers have always been a big thing. You always look to target penalty takers if there are also good options. So I'm not sat here writing them off. But at the end of the day, he has scored a lot of points from penalties alone. In 9 games, I think he missed 1. His non-penalty XG is only 3.26, so quite low. Now look, we know people will say he's a stat buster. He doesn't need too many chances. He is quite clinical. And I would agree with that. But you still need to get some chances. He's really not had that many. 16 shots inside the box. I think 6 of those were even counted for the penalties as well. So if you take them out, it's only 10 in 9 game weeks. And again, he missed 1, so 8 game weeks. And I don't know, you just feel like they can't keep getting this many penalties. Now that is a bit of gambler's fallacy, right? Just because they've had 8 doesn't mean they suddenly dry up. But 8 penalties is a mad stat. Like, that's even ahead of Man United levels, right? If they got as many penalties as they got in the first kind of 9 game weeks, they get what, 32 by the end of the season? That is never happening, right? So the amount of penalties is going down. But in general, I don't think that matters. Like, I talk time and time again, like, people go on about form and fixtures and etc. But I think with captaincy, like, fixture is a massive thing. And this is Fulham, right? We just saw them concede 3 goals to Everton. There's no reason why Leicester can't do that. In attack, at times, Leicester can be better than Everton. Now, I do think Everton in particular have been quite good this season. But in general, you've got Jamie Vardy in your team. There's always going to be the option to get goals. And I'll tell you now, if Scott Parker puts that Fulham team out, trying to play out from the back again, they're going to be in trouble. Jamie Vardy still has the legs to press them. That defence is not good enough to be playing out from the back. I know that's how they want to play, and I know that's a bit how they played in the Championship. This is the Premier League now. You've got to be much better on the ball in order to play like that. And Fulham cannot do it. So I foresee goals in this one. I think we'll have to see what happens in the Europa League on Thursday night. Like, if Jamie Vardy plays, how many minutes he gets, etc. You know, is there any other injuries to the rest of the Leicester team? You'll have to assess that in terms of how good this could be. But as a one-off fixture, when we're purely talking about captaincy, I do think Jamie Vardy is the best option. Probably not the video to necessarily go into, you know, whether or not you should bring him in and stuff, because ultimately after this week, you're not going to probably captain him for the next 2. And maybe there's better things you can do with your transfer. Like, that's probably why I won't captain him this week, because for my long-term plans, it's probably not the week to bring him in. But if you already own him, or you really are looking for a captaincy, you maybe don't want to go to Liverpool, I just don't see anything wrong with Jamie Vardy. Forget the stats for a second. He's going to get chances against Fulham. There could be more penalties, because this season is just penalty city. And therefore, he could get a big score. So I really like Jamie Vardy this week. We'll talk about it on streams and deadline streams about whether or not you should bring him in. But as objectively looking at a captaincy option this week, he's arguably the best. Man City, what are you doing to me, right? In FPL, there's hard decisions to be made every week. But one of them is not whether Man City are going to score goals. That's an easy one. Yes, they are, but not this season, right? It's been absolutely ridiculous. And they have found it difficult to score goals. And I spoke about on the preview yesterday, all the excuses, injuries, etc., etc., etc. But it's just not good enough for a team of their standards. Now, they've got the fixtures to put that right. Whether Burnley is the one to kick that off, I don't know. Like, next week, completely different story. They're going to play Fulham. They'll probably be the best captaincy options next week, which I'll talk about in the video, of course. This week is a little bit of a worry because Burnley's defence is quite good. And I've spoken a lot about learning about having the best captaincy option every single week. Last week, I think it was a little bit different because I think Fernandes was the standout, like I said at the start of the video. And there was other options, but I don't think they were as good. This week, though, I do think there's a lot of options you could choose from. And suddenly, in a week where maybe usually City would stand out as really good options, they maybe don't quite as much now. Now, I believe the last kind of 2 or 3 times that Burnley have gone to the Etihad, they've lost like 4 or 5-0. So if Man City won 5-0 again, would I be surprised at all? Absolutely not. But the way it's going, I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, Champions League, Aguero got a bit of a run out, which was nice. De Bruyne got a full rest, which is good. So there are options there, right? Whether or not Aguero gets a start, we don't know. It could be Jesus again. Realistically, the main options you're looking at are De Bruyne or Sterling. So now having a look at the games so far, City expected goals for the season. Now they have played 1 game less than most other teams, not all teams, but most other teams. They're the 12th best in the league. Last season they were the best by quite a way as well. Brighton, for example, are on 12.19. So they're ahead of City. They've played 1 game more, but on a game-to-game basis, there's not much different at all. Now, if you look at the last 4 game weeks where everyone's played the same amount of games, they have played Spurs and Liverpool, to be fair. Their XG is 5.5, which is the 7th best in the league. So they've gone up a little bit. It's still not where I expect them to be. And I said yesterday on the preview, they've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that we can use that as an excuse. But it's just not good enough. And when you look at Burnley, right, so I've looked at the stats I've got written down here. Expected goals against, so expected goals conceded for Burnley, 2nd best so far this season. Their defence is doing what Burnley defences do. And in terms of shots conceded in the box, they're the 7th best, right? So Burnley are doing a Burnley. And look, we know how this game goes down. The fact that they've got smashed means Sean Dyche, doesn't know how to necessarily contain them, right? He does that against other teams. He doesn't necessarily know how to do that against Man City. So for me, this match will be Burnley defending deep and City will just over and over and over again look for a way to get through that defence. If they do it early, there'll be plenty of goals. And if they do it, De Bruyne is going to be at the centre of that. So for me, De Bruyne is the key player for this game. I worry about Sterling right now. Of course, with FPL, the objective is to get players in before they hit form. But I think with Sterling, you want to see a bit from him first. And I don't know if we've seen that so far. So I think if you've got him and you want to captain him, I don't see it as a massive issue. And I'm sure he's going to play in this game. Like, no real issues about that. But for me, De Bruyne, especially with the penalties as well, is probably the standout in this game. I think in another season, it will be extremely close between Liverpool, Leicester and City. But I would definitely put Liverpool closer to Jamie Vardy than I would for Man City. I just think they're maybe a little bit of a step behind. I might live to regret saying that, but that is my opinion as it stands. I just think everything tells me that City will be fine over the next few weeks because the fixtures are just too damn good for it to not be the case. But I don't think backing a team to turn their attacking potential around against Burnley is necessarily the way to do it. And it's not even a case that they've got the stats, City, and they've just not got the goals. Because sometimes that happens, right? You create lots of chances, it just doesn't go in. You know it's going to happen. It's not really happened with City. They've been okay in creating chances, expected goals, etc., but just okay. And okay is not good enough for Man City. So if you've got a player in this game and you want to capture them, don't see a massive issue, but I do think there are better options out there. Okay, so Southampton versus Man United. I don't even know how to talk about Bruno Fernandes anymore. I've kind of given up on him at this point in terms of trying to not write him off, but say that other options are better. I saw a really good podcast last night, FPL Black Box. If you've not already checked them out, you can go and find them on YouTube. Just search FPL Black Box. And basically, the stat that Mark pulled out was that since Fernandes started playing for Man United, right? So I think it was game week 25 last season, he has scored 30 more points than Salah. So he scored, I think it was 181 and Salah scored 151. Now, ultimately, there's some things that go into that, right? When Fernandes came into the team, Man United were massively fighting for 4th spot. And post-lockdown, they had a really, really good fixture run. Whereas post-lockdown, Liverpool had won the league. And we know what kind of happened after that, right? So there are maybe circumstances around that. But that's still impressive to beat Salah by 30 points. And so any given game week, you just cannot write him off anymore. Let's start with Southampton first. So I was looking at the stats. And actually, Southampton much better than I thought. It's no wonder McCarthy's doing so well. They're 4th best for expected goals conceded over the season so far. And again, it depends which way you look at it, right? They've played 1 more game than Man City, so arguably on their attacking stats, you'd expect them to be better. But defensively, you'd expect them to be worse, right? Because I've not looked per match or per minute. I'm looking overall. And Southampton are 4th best. Even the last 4 game weeks, they're 6th best for expected goals conceded, although they're 5th worst for shots in the box. So what that tells me is they're conceding quite a few chances. Like teams are getting quite a few shots against them. They're not necessarily the most quality shots, basically, but they are still getting shots, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So Southampton defence may be a little bit all over the place. In some stats they look okay, in some stats they don't. And in general, this is probably a game where you would back the more attacking side. Now, whether Man United are a more attacking side than Southampton this season, obviously Danny Ings isn't there, so it's a little bit different. That's up for debate. Not necessarily look good, but does it even matter with Bruno Fernandes? Why am I even talking about this, right? United are at 8th for XG, only just above City, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? You all want to captain Bruno Fernandes anyway. Let's talk about how the game might go instead, right? I think this is quite a good game for Man United because Southampton, like against West Brom, Man United created quite a few chances, and they did in the Champions League as well. In the Champions League, they left themselves a bit suspect defensively, but that allowed them to attack, and it worked out, right? 4 goals, very impressive performance. And against West Brom, West Brom defended all right, but they did basically try and defend against us, right? Southampton are not going to do that. Southampton are going to come out and attack. Now, what happened last year, at the end of last season when we played them, is they pressed us so well into so many mistakes, and Southampton actually scored the first goal. Once we got a foothold into the game, it was a little bit better. We came into it, we got 2 goals back, and it was only the 97th minute that I think it was 96th or 97th minute that we actually conceded. We were probably the better team after that initial maybe 30, 40 minute period. But Southampton was so good. Now, they're going to try that again, of course. Whether or not this is effective without Danny Ings in the team. So I don't think he's going to be back. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think there's chances on the counter for Man United here. I do think Man United are probably at their best when they get the opportunity to counter. And this is a game where they're going to be not allowed to do that, but there's going to be opportunities to do that. So Bruno Fernandes, obviously, he's a good option. He's going to get points somehow. I don't know how he's going to get them. Maybe a goal from the halfway line, 3 penalties, whatever. He's going to get points. He's going to assist the likes of Rashford and Martial. And I think actually this might be what happens in this game. Maybe most of his points will come from assists because balls through to Martial and Rashford on a counter are going to be really good. So if you've got Martial, or if you're like me and got Rashford and you want to keep him for this game, it might not be the worst time to do it. Again, I think there's better options for captaincy this week outside of kind of Fernandes, Rashford and Martial. But if you've left yourself in a position where you now want to hold on to Fernandes and you don't have a Jamie Vardy, or you don't have maybe City midfield or Liverpool midfield, or you just think that Bruno Fernandes, with his 181 points since he came into the league, is the best option, then he's a decent one to go for. One quick thing I will say is in the Champions League, they played Cavani up front, which let Rashford and Martial play left and right. So Martial played left and Rashford actually played right, even though he's been playing most of his games on the left. And they were both extremely good running into the box. So they could cause Southampton some problems. If they stick with that, it'll be Martial up against Kyle Walker-Peters, not Rashford, which is what I think a lot of people are saying. So it's worth considering. I think Man United options are an outside bet for captaincy this week, but I do prefer all of the other 3 teams. I probably would still put Man City players, especially Kevin De Bruyne, slightly ahead. But like I said, who cares about the stats, right? Bruno Fernandes is going to get another double-digit haul anyway. So that is it for this one. Just to kind of talk about the teams I've not mentioned, like Chelsea versus Spurs, I just think is so close. I know it's easy to say for those kind of games it could be tight, but I don't really see Chelsea attacking Spurs that much, and therefore I'm not sure how much opportunity there will be for Spurs to counter. So I could see like a 1-1 draw or a 1-0 win either side, maybe a 2-1, but certainly not enough to back a captaincy in that game. And then Everton versus Leeds, like if you told me you were captain in Calvert-Lewin, I wouldn't necessarily think it was that big of a thing or like big of an issue. But I will say for Leeds, they've got Phillips back now, and they've got Rodrigo back as well. That does make them a stronger team overall. We know on their day they can defend. Also, they can capitulate, right? If Calvert-Lewin gets an early goal, who's to say Everton don't get another 2 or 3? And obviously, they're back to full strength as well now. So that's a hard one to call. But I just think if you're captaining Calvert-Lewin, then it's just because you haven't got like a Liverpool attacker, Vardy, Man City or Fernandes, basically. I don't think ahead of all those, he's anywhere near a better choice for me. So that's why I've not talked too much about them. For me, I do think it's quite close between the likes of Salah and Jamie Vardy. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be Vardy. But for me, I'm going to captain Salah. Now, don't read too much into that because it's just how it fits my team, right? How I want to make my transfers. Getting Jamie Vardy in slows me down for other moves I want to make. That's the only reason I'm not going to own him this week. And then, sure, Fernandes is going to score. We always know he does. And Kevin De Bruyne could be a really good option for Man City as well. So Jamie Vardy probably ahead. So if you are enjoying these captaincy videos, only started doing them this season, please do give them a thumbs up. Much appreciated. And hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. If you want to check out Fanteam's €100,000 prize Pool game. Click that link in the description below. And I just want to do one quick shout out to everybody that signed up on patreon.com/Let's Talk FPL. Everyone gets up on the Legends wall when they do sign up. Blue highlights for anyone that's signed up for at least 1 year already. Absolute legends. Everyone that signed up. So if you want to check that out, get some extra content. There'll be a Q&A over there before the start of Game Week 10, as well as Slack access, WhatsApp access. All that stuff depending on the tier you sign up to. So thanks very much for watching. I hope that helps you. Let me know in the comments below who you are captaining this week and who you think the best captain is as well, because it's not always the same thing. And otherwise, I will catch you on Friday for a deadline stream starting at 5:30. So hit that subscribe button and the notification bell.